Dear viewers, it is basically a rite of passage to make a top 10 video, so I'm going to get this one out there early. Also, I'm going to be upfront about my favorites hereafter, so let's enjoy the moderate suspense before I spoil it every other video. Now, fair warning, gameplay has very little impact on any of these. I enjoy the gameplay of all of them, but I'm the kind of person who could enjoy playing any character. This is by no means a review or recommendation of which Skylanders are the best. These are just 10 that really connected with me. And honestly, this list is subject to change. There are a lot of Skylanders that I just don't know that well yet, and I can easily see the bottom half of the list changing as I explore new stories and get more knowledge on the series and individual characters that I've just not taken the time to really get to know. There's a lot of them. So yeah, opinions, be respectful, all that yada yada stuff, you know it. You've seen enough of these at this point to get the idea, so let's just dive right in.
Roll with the punches!
You know, this old vampire really grew on me, and it's definitely because he's a key character in a story I'm working on. A story you guys will hopefully get to see next February if things go well. But without getting into spoilers for that, he's a gruff and proud character who stands out among the Swap Force, which is filled with a lot of very energetic personalities. He is a bit different in that he joined the Skylanders because his boxing career was cut short. Well, short for a vampire, at least. He is confirmed to be centuries old. The fact that he gave up his inheritance in order to fill his life with a purpose is intriguing. It gives the impression that there's more going on to that never got explored. And it makes me wonder if he's got bitter relationships with his family. I can't say anything more at this time because a lot of what I do with his character has to be contained to that story. I don't want to spoil any of that. So we're just going to go ahead and move on to number 9.
The spirit is willing.
Bad Juju is such a fun character, and a great choice for a redeemed villain. In fact, it's her reason for redemption that really drew me to her character. Bad Juju is a character who delighted in being evil. She liked it. She liked cursing people for her amusement. She was temperamental and cruel. Yet, she did make a singular, selfless choice, and that took her from being just a filler villain for you to catch to a complex character in Imaginators. When Bad Juju accidentally conjured Juju Jr., she decided that she didn't want him growing up in a life of crime. She didn't change to improve her situation or because of some arbitrary change of heart. She made a choice that was for someone she never meant to make, and that makes her reformation, there we go, that's how you say it. That makes it amazing because it's not shallow. I'd love to dive into this character's background and her future with Juju Jr. because making a decision like that means she genuinely understands the drawbacks to being a villain while still wanting to be one, yet not wanting her son to be one. She was able to make a choice for her son that she didn't want to make for herself. I work with kids personally, and a lot of those kids do come from broken homes, so that's why her story really landed with me.
Shield Striker. Supercharge.
Okay, so you guys are going to see a lot of superchargers on this list. And this one was a bit surprising considering my usual tastes. I would not have singled him out in a lineup of the superchargers or the Skylanders as a whole. In fact, the Earth and Tech elements appeal to me the least. They just, not my thing. Yet, this one grew on me as I played him in-game and as I got to know him in a story context. Highvolt's backstory does connect to the lore of the Sky Eater, but only in that he was able to warn Master Eon, which meant he's had connections to the Skylanders long before he joined them. That's interesting. But it's also neither here nor there, because what makes Highvolt a favorite of mine is his dynamic with the Superchargers group. He is responsible, he's disciplined, and he's used to structure. Most of his team is not. including the experienced Skylanders. If you're looking at that roster, you've got Trigger Happy and Pop Fizz. Eruptor, he's responsible, but he's not the sharpest tool. Terrafin, again, he's a bit more responsible than Trigger Happy or Pop Fizz, but at the same time, he's not really running the show. Stealth Elf is very impulsive, as good as she can be at leading. She's also happy to indulge in unsafe practices. So he's kind of left with, on that side, just Jetvac and Rollerball, and maybe Gilgrunt too. He's got a few good ones on the new end too, mostly Buzz. Anyway, that actually challenges him as a character because High Volt is used to a very rigid type by the book structure. You follow these protocols. You do it this way or not at all because it would breach code of conduct. And because High Volt has this experience of being a rule follower, it makes him a great character to rein in the more impulsive characters and make sure that things do go to plan, or, have a plan to begin with. Another thing that stands out is that he is a protector first and a warrior second. He is the one looking out for his teammates in battle, not trying to get the glory. And that makes him a really honorable character. I just like him a lot.
The master of mystery.
So this is where we go from complicated lore and story to outright bias. Mysticat is a cat, and that makes me very happy. Jokes aside, I actually really do like his character. He's a sphinx through and through, with all the cat elements to his personality while being genuinely wise. I once came up with a story where some Skylanders were paired with Sensei for a week of training meant to push them to new heights, and Stealth Elf got paired with Mysticat. This became extremely frustrating for her, as Mysticat spent most of their time either napping or talking in riddles, the kind that don't rhyme. He pushed her to strengthen one of her greatest weaknesses, understanding people and, more importantly, herself. Also, I absolutely love his moveset. He is one of my favorite Skylanders to play as. Okay, so from this point, my attachment to these characters significantly increases. I like the 4 that we've gone over a lot, but I can see them being moved down in the future as I play around with other characters and get to know them better. The next 6, not as much. All that to say, the gap between number 7 and number 6 is pretty substantial.
Keeping it cool.
I love this Furball. He is such a fun character. His backstory is pretty standard, but his personality exudes so much playfulness. He's a dork, and I love that about him. The promotional short of him in Night Shift captures his excitableness and his complete lack of sense of personal boundaries. I wish more characters got clips like this, because although they are short, it gives a window to who they are and how they interact. Freezeblade is the kind of guy who will embarrass himself, then laugh along with everyone rather than taking it poorly. So what happens when a character who is so used to letting things roll off of him faces a feeling that he can't brush away? His backstory mentions a scenario like this, when he had to move away from his icy home, but I do have a story that'll push him even further. You'll have to wait for that one. I'm sorry, there's a lot more I would love to say on Freezeblade, but I just cannot at this time. No, you will get that in the future.
Splatter Splasher. Supercharged.
So this is one you all probably suspected would be on the list, and yeah, I love Splat. She was the first Skylander I ever customized. I often joke that while she isn't my favorite Skylander, she is my spirit Skylander. And that isn't just because of the artistic theme, though that is a big part of it. Of all my top 10, she is the closest to me in personality. She is what is called a learned extrovert, which means she's really good at socializing and being friendly, but needs to recharge with solitude. That's how she learned to fight, actually, by going off and experimenting where others couldn't judge her. Overall, her backstory is kind of formulaic, but her character design is exceptional. When I bring my basket of superchargers to work, the girls have to negotiate whose turn it is to play with her. It's funny. But Splat is just one of those characters where it's a bit harder to explain. I just vibe with her, you know?
Sunrunner. Supercharged.
So Aster Blast is one I initially didn't give a whole lot of thought to. Yes, his moveset could be better and his little disco balls are basically useless. Let's get that out of the way. I don't think he's that bad in game, and the concept is really cool, but frankly, that's just not important. See, when you start writing a fanfiction that involves a team of 18 characters, you start to get to know all of them. And I discovered that Aster Blast is actually a delightful character to write, especially when paired up with some other teammates. He is a confident showboat who loves the attention. He's not shallow or stupid, though. His backstory alludes to him being the top of whatever force he was from before joining the Skylanders. Actually, his entire backstory is really interesting because he isn't from Skylands at all. And unlike characters such as Flashwing or Starstrike, he's not exactly stuck. He has the Sunrunner and he can get home. He was on a secret mission and decided to join the Superchargers when Eon invited him. We don't know what that mission was or if he achieved it. That alone opens the gate for a lot of potential stories. And even that aside, he's just a lot of fun. I won't over-explain it here, but there's a lot I do want to do with his character, so stay tuned for that in the future. Alright, top 3, and I need to make a confession. I don't actually have an order for my top 3. There is a huge gap between them and the rest of my favorites, and each one of these means a lot to me. I like them for very different reasons and have spent a lot of time getting to know all 3 of these. When people ask my favorite Skylander, my answer is all 3. Some days I'm more invested in one or the other, but that's just the nature of like a recency bias or who I'm focusing on for a story. But to give a sense of progression here, I have ordered them based on the order that they became my favorites, with the one that I fell in love with first being at number 3 and the most recent one being number 1. Before we move on, I will go ahead and show just a few honorable mentions here. These are more based on cool and aesthetic factor than the bigger story reasons that I have here.
Full scream ahead! Let's make some noise!
The luck of the claw! Cut to the chase!
In a league of my own.
Also, for the heck of it, quick rapid fire. My favorite game is Superchargers. My favorite vehicle is the Toon Buggy, easily. My favorite trap team villain would be Nightshade, but my favorite overall villain is probably Mesmeralda. And my favorite NPC is Tessa. If there's anything else you need to know my favorite of, just ask in the comments.
Silent but deadly.
This is the character that got me into the franchise. I discovered Skylanders through Skylanders Academy, and I really liked Stealth Elf in that first season. Then after doing some digging, I absolutely fell in love with her game counterpart. Stealth Elf is brash and impulsive with a mischievous nature, but she's smart enough to get away with it. She is one of the top fighters among the Skylanders, but she struggles in casual settings. For all of her practical problem-solving skills, Stealth Elf isn't very tactful in social problems. She speaks her mind and doesn't consider others' feelings when she does. She doesn't mean to be rude, but elements of social decorum just elude her, and I can relate to that. I've got a story that'll dive into this topic that I'll make sooner rather than later. Stealth Elf has one of the biggest question marks on her backstory: her memory loss. For those who don't know, the earliest thing Stealth Elf can remember is waking up in a forest and being taken in by her master that trained her to be a ninja. She has no idea where she came from or why she can't remember, and that never gets resolved. This is one frustration I had with the later seasons of Academy. Spyro spent a lot of time whining about his unknown past, and not once did the show bring up stealth elves. That would have been a great thing to do for both characters. Though honestly, Academy Stealth Elf, while good for the show, is definitely bland compared to Game Stealth Elf. She's a really rich character, hilarious to write. Oh my word, she can make scenes so funny. And she has weaknesses that make her engaging. And yeah, she's also a ton of fun to play. I have such a blast whenever I put her on the console, which is, it's been a hot minute, but I really did enjoy playing with her when I first started playing the games.
Let's roll!
Rollerball is a character a lot of people like, both in reality and in universe. She's just got that chill energy paired with fun nature that makes her easy to be around, and she's got a wicked moveset on top of it. Unlike Stealth Elf, Rollerball is very skilled socially, and despite being a younger Skylander among the roster of lead characters, she's really mature. She's a character who doesn't need a whole lot of personal development, but she does face a lot of challenges. Her ability to get along with so many people, paired with her sharp mind, makes her a natural-born leader, but that's not a burden she asked for. She can also be headstrong, and while she won't push others too far, she'll be hard on herself and put herself at risk if she considers the situation important enough. Rollerball's backstory is probably the most infamous, with Chaos falling in love with her and everything. The devs had a really fun way of making a vampire with some of the love trope drama without it impacting her character negatively. I'm actually really impressed by that. Rollerball is definitely flirtatious, but in a way that's played off as just playful rather than seductive. This girl does not need romance to be awesome, nor does she need to be a tomboy to be cool. She is one of my favorite characters to write, even though she's actually best suited for a supporting role rather than being the lead of a story. I know a lot of fans were disappointed when Rollerball took the undead spot in Superchargers. It made a lot of people who felt like Chop Chop was being usurped feel upset. But looking through Skylanders' history, the undead element actually had a lot of promotion kind of evenly spread between Chop Chop, Hex, and Cinder early on. And then once Swap Force released, Rollerball did become the lead face of that element. We see that as soon as the opening cutscene of Trap Team, where she is introduced along with several other popular core Skylanders. But personal bias aside, I think this was a good thing. Rollerball made the lead cast a lot more dynamic, yes, by adding another girl to the lead roster, but also in personality. I say she's earned her spot, both as the lead of the undead representative and as a favorite on this list.
Sea Shadow. Supercharged.
So, among my top 3, this is the one where I have to say, hear me out. Stealth Elf and Rollerball are both very popular characters, I know that, and their gameplay alone carries them to a lot of people's favorite lists. Nightfall, however, is a bit more controversial, and get this, I actually did not like her at first. She's the only Skylander on this entire list that I disliked at any point. When I first learned about her, she seemed like a character made to be edgy just for the sake of it. And at the time, I wasn't a fan of edgy characters. That's definitely a product of being in high school at the time, where edginess was more about trying to be as cool as possible. Goodness knows, if you've read any OC-centered fan fiction, you should know. That aside, that actually isn't Nightfall at all. Because she's an edgy character, actually done right, and one of the first ones that I got to know. See, while I didn't like her at first, I was intrigued. It was a gradual shift from dislike and curiosity to understanding, and then eventually absolutely loving her. I think I spent, it was months to a year between knowing about her and not liking her to absolutely loving this character. She is a very complicated character. She's proud, aloof, often mean, and yet she cares deeply about the people around her, even if those people don't like her. In fact, Nightfall is used to people being scared of her and disliking her. But Nightfall does care, and she has a lot of destructive defense mechanisms so that she can try not to care. Stealth Elf is bad at social situations because she just doesn't get it half the time. Nightfall actively tries to avoid getting attached to anyone. She is bad at being around people and she knows it, so she'd sooner push them away while they're still strangers than start to care about somebody only to be the one to hurt them. She has a lot of growing to do, but despite it all, she is a good person. She regularly risks her life hunting deadly monsters for people who she doesn't fit in with. She is a hero, and she's learning. It's definitely a shift to go from an isolated vigilante to being a part of a bigger team, and that is what makes her such an epic character. Sadly, I'll have to wait a while to show you guys the stories I have for her because I need some other stories to come out first. But it will happen. I have so many good stories for her. She is one of the favorites to write. And frankly, I'm kind of writing those ahead of a lot of the other ones, and we'll come back to it and show you guys later. I'm excited to do that. Also, to touch on her gameplay, she is by far one of my favorites to play. She's my go-to to play. Her moveset is not intuitive to most people, and I get why so many people don't care for her and were disappointed when they put her on the portal for the first time. But once you know how to play her, she is so much fun. Simply put, she is an evasive character, not a powerhouse. And if you can start to grapple with that, you can start to have a whole lot of fun with her. And that's my list. I know my reasoning for these were unconventional compared to most Skylander rankings, but unconventional kind of seems to be my life MO, so it is what it is. This isn't a list of best Skylanders, just my favorites. I try to keep things somewhat concise, but know that I could do a deep character analysis on any one of these. Like, I could talk about any of these characters for like 20 minutes. So if you want to see those, go ahead and tell me. Tell me if you want to see analysis on other characters I didn't mention in this. And also, let me know which of these characters you want to see featured in a story. I think on just about every single one of them, I mentioned having some sort of story for them. And you could probably figure out by now that that plays a huge factor on whether or not I like these characters. But I also have stories for a lot of characters not mentioned here, like Bash and Flashwing. Oh, there's so many. There are so many. And there's so many that has yet to be told and discovered. I have stories I don't even know I want to tell yet because they will come up as I continue to explore the world of Skylands, and then I'll just have to find a way to fit them in. Okay, but let me know what your top 10 lists are in the comments, of course. I know everybody loves to share their own personal top 10. Till next time, Rainstorm.